Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Now today I'm going to be making something that I've had a request for, which is chocolate sponge and pink custard. Now this used to be a favourite many years ago of school dinners in the UK, and basically it's a chocolate sponge and then it has this pink custard which is actually pink blancmange, raspberry or strawberry, but pink blancmange, which is served warm rather than allowing it to chill and set in a mould. Now, if you can't find pink blancmange, in the UK we can get packets of blancmange. You get 4 sachets in a packet of different flavours, and you just add milk and a bit of sugar and heat it up. But if you can't get that, then custard is fine. Even potentially warmed up pudding, as you call it in America, would probably be fine as well. You can also find recipes online for making your own blancmange, and I have seen this particular packet of blancmange online available in the US as well. So we'll go on to the ingredients, and for the ingredients I have 3 large eggs. That would be extra large in the USA. Now I want to explain how I've done these ingredients. I've done them by weight of egg. So that's one method of making sponge cake, is to weigh your eggs and then you match the remaining ingredients to fit the weight of the eggs. So in this case, my 3 large eggs weigh 205 grams. And so I now have 205 grams of caster sugar, 205 grams of self-raising flour and 205 grams of softened butter. I also have 25 grams of cocoa powder and 30 millilitres of milk. Now if you don't want to weigh the eggs, you can use 3 large or extra large in the USA eggs and 200 grams of each of the other ingredients. So that would be 1 cup of sugar, just over 1.5 cups of plain flour, and I think about 1 3/4 sticks of butter, something like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is to preheat the oven to 180 Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and to grease a baking tin. Now I'm using an 8-inch square baking tin. You could use maybe 8 by 12 inches, but then your cake would be thinner than mine's going to be, but it would still work out fine. And of course you could use medium eggs and vary the amounts as I mentioned. But the first thing to do is to cream our butter and sugar together until it's nice and fluffy. So we'll just cream this together until it's all combined and it's nice and fluffy. And with that nicely creamed together, I'm just going to scrape down to put the mixture into the centre of the bowl more, and then I'm going to add the eggs, if possible 1 at a time, and mix those to combine. And each time I add an egg, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of flour. That should help to stop the mixture from curdling. But as I always say, if it does curdle, it doesn't matter, because once the remaining flour goes in, it will all be okay. So we do this for each egg. So with our 3 eggs nicely folded in, the next thing I'm going to do is to add the flour and the cocoa powder. But I'm going to put the cocoa powder into the flour, and then I'm going to sift it in. That's just to get any lumps out of the cocoa powder, basically. So I'll sift that into our bowl. So that's all sifted in, and then I'm going to fold that in, but I'm going to do it on a very slow speed with the beater. You can do it by hand if you want. And I'm going to add in my 2 tablespoons of milk at the same time. And with the mixture mainly folded in, I'm just going to finish off with a spatula, just to make sure we've got everything nicely combined. Because there will be some loose flour and cocoa powder that you want to incorporate. And with that all mixed in, we want to put that into our cake tin. And spread it so that it's level. And with that spread fairly level, I'm going to give it a couple of bangs just to knock out a couple of bubbles, and if there are any big bubbles in there. And then I'm going to put this into the oven, and I'm going to bake it for between 40 and 50 minutes. It should rise up. It may rise more in the middle than on the outside, but that's fine. And I'll test it with a skewer, and when a skewer goes in and then comes out clean, I will take it out of the oven and let it cool down, and then I'll come back and we'll get on to make the pink custard as well. Right, so I have our cake out of the oven, our chocolate sponge, and that's cooling down quite nicely. So I'm going to go on to make the pink custard, or the blancmange. And for that, I've put my sachet of raspberry blancmange powder into a bowl, and into that I'm going to add 45 grams of sugar, between 30 and 45 grams, 2 to 3 tablespoons of sugar. Just give that a bit of a mix around. And then I'm also going to put in about 3 tablespoons of milk. I have 1 pint, or 568 millilitres of milk here, and it's cold at the moment, but I'm going to put about 3 tablespoons in. And then I'm going to mix that into a paste. I can smell raspberry already. So with that mixed, I'm going to put the remaining milk into a saucepan, and I'm going to just warm it up a little bit to start with, and then once it's warm, we'll put a bit more into our mixture and stir that in, and then we'll get on to make it. What we do is we put a bit in, mix it in, then we pour the rest in and mix it in, then we put it back in the saucepan and we heat it up until it's boiling, and we simmer it for a minute. So the milk is warm. I'm just going to take a little bit of it and pour it in to a mixture and mix that around. And then I'm going to pour the remainder in. Mix it all around. And then I'm going to put that back into the saucepan, and I'm going to heat it, stirring all the time until it starts to boil. Then I'm going to turn it down and simmer it for 1 minute, and then I'll come back and show you how to serve it. Okay, so I'm back with you, and I've stirred our pink custard until it's thickened on the stove, and I've poured some onto the sponge, so you can see the sponge here, nice and light, and I'm just going to have a taste. That is very, very good. The sponge is so light, it's unbelievable. And that custard with that nice raspberry flavour is absolutely delicious. And if you do it with the blancmange mixture, if you have more than you actually want, you can simply pour the rest while it's still warm into little moulds or ramekin dishes and chill that in the fridge, and then you turn it out and you have blancmange as normal. But I'm just going to have some more. So this is the sort of thing that we used to be served at school about 50 years ago, or more than 50 years ago, when I was at school. Very, very good. I hope you've enjoyed this recipe, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, which will take you to the recipe, and I'll also put a link to it below the video, and I will be back with you with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.